So how should we feel exactly about this latest number? I spoke to the chief economist at Tres's hedge fund and professor of global economy at IE Business School in Madrid, Daniel Lacalle. Here's what he told me. Daniel, always a pleasure to speak with you today. And the topic of discussion right now is US GDP. We got the first advanced estimate from the department here, 1.6%. Just give us your general thoughts to start off.
Well, I think it's a really poor number, considering not just the estimates that were significantly higher than that 1.6%, but also the composition of GDP growth. If we look at the details, investment is really, really weak, only helped by intellectual property and software, which are figures that can be easily played around with, to be fairly honest. Consumption is also weakening quite severely, and I think that that is an important negative. But I think that the worrying thing is that government spending continues to be the driving force of GDP. And that is obviously not a positive when you have a very dangerous combination, which is a slowing down GDP with an accelerating inflation and with an unsustainable level of government spending and government deficit.
So how can this happen, because the previous quarter, I think, we had much higher GDP here in the U.S. How can there be such a dramatic contrast? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that the most evident contrast is that in the past 2 quarters, GDP has been bloated by a massive increase in government spending. So now that government spending is slowing down a little bit, what we actually see is that investment, consumption, and exports are not that good, no? I have been talking about the problem of what I call a private sector recession, which is when you actually see that the private sector is not getting any better despite allegedly positive GDP numbers. And obviously, bloating GDP is not difficult, to be fairly honest, with massive levels of deficit spending. But I think that what shows in this quarter is how rapidly the economy can slow down just by showing the reality of what was previously keeping it artificially afloat, which was massive level of government spending. So although government spending continues to lead in terms of the GDP figure, is actually one of the very few elements of growth that we see. What is showing on the other side is that consumption, investment, and obviously exports are actually weakening. And all of those are factors that show that the economy is not as robust as what the Biden administration brags about, no?
Yeah, that's a very important point. But I have a follow-up on a previous point, which is inflation accelerating from what we see from the past 3 months with the CPI and now GDP slowing. So why, I want your thoughts on this, why is this a bad combination?
Well, it's a really bad combination because it basically says Americans are getting poorer. In a nutshell, it's basically showing how Americans are getting less economic growth, less real wage growth, more expenditures that are going simply to purchase the same amount of goods. And I think that that basically means that people are losing purchasing power and obviously getting poorer. But the reason why it's so negative is because the Keynesian narrative, what the Biden administration has been promoting, is the idea that government spending leads economic growth and that government spending and deficit spending don't matter because that is going to be a driver for the private sector growth, when it is actually the opposite. It works as a burden, no? And what it's proven right now is that the placebo effect of the last 3 quarters in the American economy are starting to fade away and showing that the U.S. economy is obviously not as strong as some people try to defend.
All right, thank you very much for your insight today, Daniel. Pleasure having you.
Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel,
like my videos, leave your comments below, and keep defending freedom. Thank you very much.